A one and a two and a chick-a-boom a chick.
Hey, Remodelers, before we dive into today's episode, I wanted to give a quick shout out to our friends at Builder Funnel. I've personally known Spencer and his team for over a decade, and they are the marketing agency that helps remodelers generate more leads, book more projects, and grow revenue. If you're tired of relying on the inconsistency of referrals and want a system that brings in predictable, high-quality leads, Builder Funnel can help. Head over to builderfunnel.com/ROTR to learn more. That's builderfunnel.com/ROTR. Hello, friends. It's Kyle Hunt, Remodelers on the Rise show. Bryan, I was looking at your excellent beard there, and then I was looking at your hairline there. Like, if you're watching the video, I'm like, all right, I got a similar hairline.
Yeah.
I wonder if I should go full beard. Have you had one for a long time?
It's a funny story how it came to be, but yeah, I've had it pretty much for the past 10 years in some form or fashion.
That's where we want to start. What's the funny story of how you grew that beautiful beard?
Okay, we can go for it. So my family's always been pretty.
And Bryan, you're sitting there going, all right, first podcast I'm recording, I'm doing this. I was going to introduce myself, and you didn't anticipate.
I didn't anticipate that.
Nope. Welcome to my interview style.
Sure. Well, yeah, my family back home, my nucleus family, really big on clean cut, clean face, things like that. I've been married for 10 years now. So our first year of marriage, I wanted to save some money. I said, I'm not going to go to the barbershop. I had hair at that time.
Hang on. I remember those days too.
All right.
Okay.
They were nice. Yeah. They were nice. And I started cutting my own hair. So I was cutting my hair. It was right around Christmas time. We were going to see my wife's family. And as I'm cutting my hair, my wife's talking to me. We're having fun, enjoying just the day of, 4 months of marriage at this point. And I'm changing the guard, and I changed the guard incorrectly, and I start cutting, and I'm like, oh man, I have this bald spot right here. Now, I'm nervous. This is our first Christmas together, going up to her family. I've met most of the family, not all of the family. I don't want to meet them this way. So we decide together, let's just cut it all off, and let's see if we can grow something. At that point, I had little patches. Let's see if we can grow something before Christmas time. So I did not grow it successfully by Christmas time, I'll say that. But my father-in-law always joked and said that I looked like a little wheelchair girl in the tennis match, because I had no hair, I was bald. It was funny. But a few months later it grew, and we kept it. So.
Well, there we go. Now we already know something about Bryan. He's our guest on the Remodelers on the Rise show. It's Bryan Williams. It's Squirrel Solutions. Where did the Squirrel Solutions name come about, by the way?
Yeah, good question. I used to work in hotels. I started hotels years ago and grew to be a regional director of operations. Through that, I was working directly with the owner, and he would always tell me when he had something to do, Bryan, go and do the thing. Take care of the squirrel. Take care of the squirrel for me. So for years, it became that Bryan was the squirrel hunter. I would take care of the squirrel, I would take care and cause the solution. He built a lot of trust with him. And years later, didn't realize that was going to be the name of the company. But now working with so many different owners, I take care of those things that are at times distractions from them.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So I saw Bryan, and we saw each other live and in person at the Rise conference. He was kind to head up and attend that and help sponsor that as well. So it was great having you up in Michigan. And when we were up, I said, hey, we need to record a podcast, hear a little more about what you do, but also today's topic is on onboarding team members. Mm-hmm. As you think about your remodeling business, whether it be your field team members, whether it be a designer or an office manager or a project manager, whatever the case might be, onboarding team members well is a really, I think, an underappreciated skill and process in a remodeling business. How you kick off that experience, how you make it so that after even the first week they go, wow, I'm really glad I decided to come to work for this company. Mm-hmm. And then how we just integrate them into the team and into the culture is a very, very important thing. So we kind of want to dive into that. That's kind of one of your specialties. Tell people just a little bit more about maybe another fun fact other than the beard about you, sure. And then also just kind of what your company does. And then let's dive into the onboarding.
Yeah, fun fact about me. currently living in actually Mexico, learning Spanish. That's been actually very beneficial not only for me and my family, but also for the company. Being able
Hmm.
to help with different roles that have that bilingual effect and interview process and conflict resolutions and things like that. So that's an interesting fact about me. I can say that I'm somewhat fluent in Spanish. But
Somewhat.
I don't know if I've hit a conversation where I feel totally uncomfortable. I feel like it's sufficient. Sure.
Did you speak
Uh,
Spanish at the Rise conference at all?
I did. I actually did. There was a contractor there from Florida. He and his wife, and we had a nice little conversation.
And would he
So that
say,
was fun.
all right, Brian's pretty fluent, or would he say,
You know, the funny thing is, oftentimes when I have this encounter, the first thing we gringos will say is a little bit. We speak un poco, right? And that doesn't give confidence to the person when you say
yeah,
it to them. So you have to give them a little bit more, have a little bit of fun with them. So I think initially he was like, "Oh, let's see what happens," and then I continued, and then there was definitely a comfort there.
there you go. Good.
Yeah.
And one other thing on that, it was on a VIP club call recently, and I was just kind of kicking off the call by saying, everybody type in the chat box an employee benefit that they've received or given over the years that just really stood out. And there was 401k matches, and there was
Mm-hmm.
giving your birthday off and this and that. And one of the gentlemen said, one of the first companies I worked for paid for private Spanish lessons. To learn Spanish, and he said it was incredibly valuable as I talked to some of the trades and
Sure.
just being able to communicate stronger and build a bigger bond with them. I thought I'd never heard that before, and I thought, man, that makes great sense. And that skill of having that second language
It really
come in
allows
handy.
for the culture to come together, right?
Yeah.
The culture of the team, not specifically the Spanish speaking and non speaking, but like just that cohesiveness of we want you to be here and we want you to thrive here. So it's definitely a game changer.
So hola and como estás to all of our Spanish speaking friends. I wrote my then girlfriend, now wife, a lot of notes in Senor Mejia's Spanish class, so I didn't really learn a lot. My mom also had a friend from Venezuela. They came up every 2 years, and I heard this phrase a lot growing up. Cállate tu boca. I think it means shut up your mouth.
Close your mouth, yes.
Yeah, cállate tu boca. So that was also shared a few times. So that's about all I got. So Brian, tell us a little bit about what else you do.
Yeah, so
in the business side.
the core goal, core goal,
Bingo.
there it is, are two things. One, I want to be able, or Squirrel Solutions wants to be able to give time back to the owners. They're wearing so many different hats, small owners typically do. And that doesn't mean you have to wear them alone. Oftentimes, you just need that second or that third person that can come in and support and allow them to have time to spend time on things that really matters to them. That may be the business. It may be something outside of the business. But oftentimes, the business can take over your life. That's the first thing that I like to say is a mission. The second mission is to take care of the second client. We often focus on the clients that are paying us the money, right? And that's super important. We have to prioritize them, but there's still a right priority. How did you say it in the conference you and your wife made mention to? Ordered rightly?
Yes, order priorities rightly. Sarah, my wife, said it so much better. We're just butchering it over here, Brian. But
no,
yes, rightly order.
Rightly order. There it is. Rightly order should be the second client, the person who's serving the company, and oftentimes they can be forgotten about. So, HR is not just compliance, it's not just paperwork, it's really focusing on the people that's within the company. So those are the things that, Squirrel Solutions focuses on, from recruiting, onboarding, compliance, performance reviews, cultural, growth, even developing strategies with the company so that we can really grow the people well. So yeah, that's what we focus on.
So kind of a cross section of various ways related to HR, related to recruiting, onboarding, some you do some EOS kind of support, implementations and support related stuff. So if I'm a remodeler going, okay, I just need an extra expert eye, a little help with things related to HR, some process improvement related stuff, some recruiting or onboarding. You guys have met a great resource for that.
And that's why we say fractional HR and ops. Oftentimes we can lean into the HR focus of it, but HR does lean and bleed into operations so often that they kind of partner and pair together well. So
Good. So talking about the onboarding stuff, I kind of threw out one of my favorite kind of thought processes with onboarding, which is if at the end of the first week of employment, frankly, before it starts, but certainly at the end of that first week, we want them to say, I made the right decision to come and work for this company. And it's just a nice, clear, what would need to happen in order for that to happen, let alone what happens after the first week. So maybe we'll take a stroll through the onboarding process and maybe kind of even start with, things that are happening, strategy before, we bring them on and what happens there, kind of lead us through some of that pre-work and strategy.
Sure thing. So I think it's really important to remember what is happening in this person's life. When they're coming into a new company, we prepare people for college, we prepare them for marriage, we prepare them for having a baby. The same thing is happening when they're transitioning from one job.
Did you guys ever go to Lamaze class and do the breathing thing?
I don't know.
I don't think
we did.
I don't think we did either. As far as like preparing for the baby, you see all those movies growing up of like Lamaze classes and we're practicing the breathing stuff. I never did that.
We didn't do that either. We did have a doula and a midwife, so she came to the home, but I don't think we ever practiced the breathing and stuff.
Well, that's because you had a doula and a midwife. You had the easy job. So we prepare. We prepare for having a baby, for going to college, for getting married, all of that stuff.
We prepare for that. The same preparation has to happen anytime we're doing a big transition in our life, and they're coming from whoever this person is coming from one company or one job type to a whole nother culture, a whole nother position. And though it may be the same position, it's a different culture. It's a different group of people that you're working with. And there's a lot of unknowns. So I like to say the onboarding portion, specifically that first week or two, is like the honeymoon phase. You're trying to engage and like, where's my trust level here? Where's my confidence here? So, the first thing I like to tell people, speaking to your point of prior to them starting, is whoever that hiring manager, the supervising manager for them, give them a call, prep them for that first date. The power of saying, hey, don't bring your lunch, or you'll be out by 3:30 or 4 today, or you'll be meeting a few different people. It puts them at ease to know what they're walking into. There have been countless times where, even for myself, when I've started a job, I come in and I don't know where to go. I don't know where to park. I don't know who to speak to first. So giving them that quick call, not just an email, but a call to say, hey, my name's Bryan. I'll be your hiring manager, your site supervisor for this moment, for this first day. And this is just kind of a general idea of what's happening. That's not to mention Bryan Sebring at the conference was talking about DISC. You never know what the DISC mindset is of that person unless you do those assessments prior. Play on that. Maybe they're relational. Maybe they want that type of touch. Maybe they're a C personality. They need to know the order of the day. So having a clarity of, hey, we have it all mapped out. You don't have to be concerned. So those are the type of things I recommend always before.
What I'm hearing there are just like proper best practices where we're so busy in our business. It's like, oh crap, they are starting next Monday. Okay, we got the computer. Okay, we got the we got the phone number set up. Okay, we've got some of these. You got the email address signed up. Like, we do some of that logistical stuff, but to really properly make them feel comfortable and know what to expect. And like, you think about that night before, if they're starting on Monday and you called them on Thursday or Friday and they're talking to their spouse and they're like, you nervous for tomorrow? For them to be able to, some people would say, yeah, kind of. I don't really know. Like, I'm going to get there at 8, but I don't really know what to expect versus, I'm nervous. Like, it's excited, nervous, but like, I'm going to meet with Bryan at the start and we're going to do a couple logistic-y HR related stuff. And then we're going to do a couple job site visits. They're taking me and the boss is also coming to lunch. It should be wrapped up around 4:00. Oh, that just sounds like a wonderful start. If you like that idea, by the way, Bryan, this onboarding starter guide, do they find that on your website or how do they find that?
It's specific to anyone who went to the Rise conference. There's a link there, but I can definitely, specific for you guys. However, I can also provide that link for you for anybody who wasn't in the conference that's in your network.
Hot diggity dog. I bet you if you go into the show notes, I bet you there might be a link to a nice little free download of an onboarding starter guide, folks.
Yeah.
Well, I'll have you and your people and my people kind of put that in there.
Sure, we could do that. Yeah.
All right.
So
go ahead, please.
And I was going to add one more thing. When we're moving from sales to design and the design build world, from design to production, we often have this handoff meeting, right? I always recommend it's a small touch, 30-minute, 45-minute meeting between whoever that recruiting and the hiring manager is to that supervisor for that moment. 30-minute hour. This is what I've learned. These are how we're preparing. These are the things that they have to fill out. Just having that small transition can really make an impact so that everybody's confident about what that first day looks like.
Yeah, and also like what if you were doing the interviews and you know you're like you said you're kind of setting them up with like who their manager is going to be. You've
Hmm.
learned a lot during those interviews and you've heard a
Yeah.
lot, and
Hmm.
it's kind and it's professional and it's just good best practice to make sure they're walking in and feeling as comfortable as they can that first day.
Exactly.
Cool. So that was the first part of it. What would you say is kind of the next part of it? I'm seeing a little bit around an onboarding budget. What do you have
Yeah.
there?
I think the budget is extremely important for anybody who looks at the numbers and wants to be strategic in how they're growing their company. Onboarding is not free. Hiring is not free. So we want to make sure that we have some type of thought of what do we want to spend time on and how much time and how much money can we put into that. That determines who we choose to actually mentor them through that first week. That chooses if you're going to do lunch every day that week or once that week. It chooses what softwares you want to put them in first or want to wait maybe 30 or 60 days. Generally speaking, every company is a little different, but anywhere from $500 to $3,000 is what you should be thinking about because you're thinking about materials, the clothing that they're wearing. Do you buy them uniforms? Are you getting them a credit card? Are you paying for their lunch? What about their computers and their setups there? You know, how many hours are you taking away from production and from actual leaning into your clients to give to that person? So I always recommend for your next 2 to 3 hires, record those things. Have somebody recording how many hours are we working for this onboarding process that we're having to do, and are we pleased with that? Because if we aren't pleased with the onboarding and the budget, we can really do some audits to clarify it, basically
Yeah.
to clarify it. Once you get that budget in mind, you can say, hey, do we want to spend a full week on this? Do we want to spend 3 weeks on this? And it really helps with just moving smoothly and knowing your numbers and knowing if you can continue to do the onboarding the way that you're doing it.
I like that. I like that.
Mhm.
The you know you said hiring isn't free either and onboarding is not free. I think I think a lot of people listening to this can wrap their head around pretty quickly of like, I need to invest in my marketing. And some
Mhm.
people aren't afraid of spending 10 grand on this, 20 grand on
Mhm.
that, 6 grand on that. And they see that as, you know, provided that they're making some wise choices and they're tracking it, they're going to be some good ROI on it. And
Mhm.
I think sometimes people have a little bit of a badge of honor of going, I don't spend anything on HR. I don't spend anything on recruiting. I don't spend anything on that. And there's a little bit of,
Mhm.
I mean, how much is a good hire worth?
Yeah.
Tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
How much does it cost you as a company to have turnover in a key position? What is that number, by the way, approximately?
$3,000-4,000, depending on who the person is and how quickly it is to turn that around.
Yeah, at
Yeah.
least, at
At least.
least,
Yeah.
right? You think about just the skills that they have, and then kind of okay, we've been building it up, and then we're back down to where we started. You know, I think you could argue tens of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars for that as
Yeah.
well. So this idea of making sure there's some budget, and even what you're talking about on the onboarding, maybe there's a little bit of even employee labor burden that you add into your employee labor burden that covers some of this onboarding. So I like that idea. The next thing that you were tossing out, oh, we already covered two things: know who you're onboarding, understand your onboarding budget, and you've got a bunch more of these brilliant ideas, Bryan. These people
Yeah.
listening to this podcast are like, "Ooh, these are practical. These are simple. These are things I don't think about very often." Your third one says define core expectations. Tell us about that.
Yeah. When you're defining the expectations, I'm actually looking at the team. Who are the people that we're holding accountable for the success of this new? So that could be the bookkeeper, that could be the production manager, that could be the design assistant, that could be the office manager. Who are the people that we are expecting to participate in this? I think it's important to remember that onboarding doesn't have to be through one person. It's a collaborative
Yeah.
experience. And not only that, you know, how are we ensuring that they are meshed without having the owner as the only person of contact? You know, how
Mm-hmm.
I've had companies. I'm thinking of a company down in Atlanta with Clark, who his mentor for site supervisor is another site supervisor. He helps with the onboarding for site supervisor. It puts ownership on him. It puts accountability on him. It gives a little bit of an expectation of, hey, you're doing great. We want you to replicate what you're doing in this next person. And I'm not speaking of training. I'm speaking of specifically the onboarding process of helping them immerse into the culture of the company, the unspoken rules that every company has. Who is that person that's teaching and supporting them in that? So that's the first core expectation. How long do we want this to be?
Mm.
Is it really, really important? How do we keep milestones and checklists going as they should be for the onboarding process? So there's a lot of different core expectations that I think we should be thinking about. But the main thing is who's accountable for what, and that's I think key. We can't just throw someone in there and expect them to onboard themselves.
Yes.
Mhm.
If we are a professional company, we need to do professional things. And what you just described there of, I can just even visualize like the team having a meeting before we bring somebody on board to strategize that, to say, okay, who's going to be responsible for teaching them this? Who's going to be responsible for kind of guiding them on that? And dividing that up a little bit and making a plan for the days is really, really solid. The fourth thing you have is leverage self-learning tools. And by the way, if you go to the show notes, little onboarding starter guide, you might say, oh, the starter guide matches up beautifully with the topics Kyle and Bryan are talking about, and expand even more on what we're talking about. So take a look at that. So leveraging self-learning tools.
Yeah, I think that this is a missed opportunity oftentimes in companies. There are so many platforms, whether you're using Builder Trend, Builder Funnel, whether you're using JobTread, whether you're using Motion or Notion or Monday, whatever it may be, that they already have things within their platform that's meant to help you grow in your knowledge. And oftentimes we feel that we have that burden of, wearing all these different hats owners do. Oh, I need to put that hat on to teach them and be the expert, when we're paying someone already to be the expert of this specific thing. So oftentimes I recommend owners or whoever that hiring manager is to walk through all of the platforms you have and see what 80% of platforms typically have, and more than 80 probably.
Sure.
Have some type of one-on-one training, some type of self-guided lesson, and cherry pick which ones are important. Everyone may not be important, so you don't want to just say go and do it. But hey, lesson 2 in this specific topic with estimating or with taking photos, something small as uploading photos. Have them watch that and do a checklist. Hey, come back to me on Friday. Come back to me next week and tell me if you have any questions. But those are small things that helps onboard that person into the different culture, and it applies to the different educational styles that we all have as well.
Yeah. The other, so for example, like you're a you're a JobTread company, and they've got a treasure trove of videos to show how to do all of those different things. The other thing that I found, I'm thinking of our friend at Josh Nelson with Nelson Builders, where he's kind of done that similarly on and off in the past, where it's like when you bring on, I'm just remembering a few years ago bringing on a team member, and you're bringing them on and you want to onboard them well, yet you and your production manager or whoever else is helping with that also has a full workload that week.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's what you're describing there of taking the time to kind of organize and list out all of these videos, not so that we can just, stick them in front of a video and have them train it, but to stick them in front of a video and let them learn that, because you go and you're training them on this, they do some job site visits, and then all of a sudden it's after lunch, it's 1 o'clock. From 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, for them to start to go through some of these videos and test it out and practice it is also a nice, okay, me as the owner or me as the project manager, I can get back to some of the work that I need to crank while they're doing some of this self-learning. And it's interesting, like an hour spent organizing that list can save you 10 hours of hand-to-hand training.
Exactly. And a little quick pro tip is ask some questions. Add some questions to, hey, after you watch this video, answer these 2 things. If you want to kind of see the feedback to test if they're going to follow up with things that you've expected from them. I work with an owner, and when we would do onboarding, he really wanted to see what they did each day. So he would ask the manager, and I said, why not give it to them? Why not ask them? That's a part of the onboarding, where they email the manager and you each day. They did it for 2 weeks. So it wasn't for 6 months. For 10 days, they would email him and say, hey, these are the things that I learned today. These are the systems that I went through. He loved DISC. So he would say, these are the people that I met, and these are the DISC things that I learned about them. So that was a part of the onboarding as well. So the same thing can go with the platforms that we're leveraging. Hey, what did you learn about this at JobTread?
Yeah. We had Cassie do that when we hired her, of just kind of like, hey, I don't know how long we're going to do this, but if you can just kind of keep track of your, and Cassie, producer, I wonder, are you still doing that? I think you might. I have a reminder that pops up occasionally, but I haven't looked at it in a while. But it was very helpful for me, as Bailey was kind of more of her direct report. I could still kind of see where she's focused and what she's working on and what she's learning. It was just helpful to keep me in the loop. So, we don't have to do that ad nauseum forever and ever, but it's a very helpful way to kind of see where things at. The other thing that I'm a proponent of, I have some clients over the years say, I don't want to hire this person until we really fine tune our design development process more. I don't want to hire that new position until we really got our stuff together with our SOPs and this and that. And while that's a good goal, sometimes the opportunity presents itself where, okay, we'd have preferred to maybe wait 3 months, but this person is a great fit. Let's do this. As you are training somebody, if you don't have a step-by-step way of this is how we create an invoice in QuickBooks, this is how we do the following when we do permitting, this is how we do the following, it is a great thing to task that new hire with documenting step-by-step whatever that process is. It's amazing if you already have that in place, but do not be shy about having them help craft that while you're doing the detailed training.
Yeah, such a good point. Such a good point. I agree because, I was working once.
With a point like that, you might hire me at Squirrel Solutions someday to help coach with you.
That's what it is. That's what's happening. This is your interview, actually.
Wow.
But I remember someone saying to me years ago that the newest person has both the numbest eyes. Sorry, we have numbed eyes. So they have the most sensitive eyes to things that we don't notice. But then also while you're training them, you're learning about your process again. Yeah. Every single time we're training and onboarding someone, we're able to record. How is it? Is it the same? So I love that point of having them kind of participate and record and embrace that. So.
And I like that phrase too of like our eyes are numb to the process. Either it's so ingrained that we just don't even have to think about it, or it's become mundane to us. And when you have fresh eyes, something that it happens often where it's like, well, of course they'll know how to do this. I'll show them one time and they'll know it. Well, no, that's because you've done it 78 times in the last year. Like, slow down. Ask them if they have questions. The fifth thing on the onboarding starter guide is review. How's this going, by the way? Is this great? Is this great so far? Anything I could do to make your podcast guest experience any better?
No, this is perfect. Everything's going great.
All right. Fifth one is review the job description together.
Yeah, I have come into companies where they've not looked at their job description for years. I think it's important that our SOPs and our job descriptions are consistently up to date. If not, why do we have them? And if we have them, how do we utilize them for the benefit of the company and for the employee or the teammate that we have there? And I think that can be a part of the onboarding. Why not? They've gone through all the interview process. They've answered all the questions that we want. They're here now. Now let's walk through the list. Hey, how do you feel about this? And I'd like to do a scale of 1 to 10. How do you feel about this item? How do you feel about that item? And let's walk through this. This is a really important time to build honesty and safety within that employee, because they're going to want to say 10 for everything in that interview process. But now that we're here, hey, if it's okay to say 7, this gives us the opportunity to know what to look forward to over the next 30, 60, 90 days. And we don't want to ever penalize them for that at this point, Yeah. So I think that the job description can become somewhat of a scorecard of things we need to review, things we need to focus on. And my wife, I'm going to give her credit. My wife, she's a homeschool parent, and she has a philosophy of how we educate our children. And there's 4 different things she does. The first thing she does is she shows them, right? She shows them what to do. She affirms that this is what you do. The second thing she does is she shows them while they help her, right? So now they're supposed to say, well, you should do this or you should do that. The third thing she does is she helps them as they show her, right? And then the fourth thing she does is they just show her. So there's 4 different steps in there. Again, I'm going to repeat it really quickly. It's she shows them, they help her, she helps them, and then they show her. I think the job description can be that that philosophy can be applied to the job description as we're confirming how we're doing on things. So, hey, if you don't feel strong there, let's start from the beginning. Show, and then we move through you showing me. And we can base it off of what their ratings are. So if they give you a 1, maybe we need to go through all 4. If they're giving you a 7 or 8, maybe we just need to go through the last 2. And I think that could be an extremely helpful gauge of first, is my job description up to date? But then secondly, do they understand how to fulfill the things that I have on this job description, or SOP if you lean more into the SOP space?
Yeah. I like several things that you said. One, your wife's brilliant. I don't know how we both married up like we did.
We married up.
Thank you, Lord. And the you kind of went through a little bit of a learning cycle there of, I do, you watch, I do, you help. That's another way of kind of exactly putting it. I like what you said though, of like, look, job descriptions are cute, but if they're out of date and you're not using them, what's the point? Yeah. And this is a good reminder that job descriptions are really, really valuable in the onboarding process. And frankly, as we go along, I was talking to one of my clients out in New York earlier in the week, and, like normally happens in a team of, 6 or 7 people, the job description that this individual is hired to do versus where it is now has changed. So that's one thing we need to do. And then his job description versus her job description, there's some overlap, and we need to kind of think through that. So job descriptions can be very helpful to identify lanes and who's doing what. My friend and colleague, Vicky Suter, shout out to Vicky Suter, Suiter, Suter, businessbuilders.com. She has a phrase that's more along the lines of your job description. I'm drawing a blank. I think a position agreement. She calls it a position agreement, where it's much more focused on, here are the outcomes, the top outcomes that we expect from you if you're doing your job well. Kind of taking more of a list and making it into like, this is how you can really keep score, if you will, on how well you're doing. If you are achieving this when it comes to project management, if you're keeping the project on time, if you're updating the schedule daily. So even kind of taking that job description. And then the last thing you just mentioned was, especially after the person's been onboarded for a few weeks, having that list of all of the things they're responsible for, and whether they score it like 1 to 10, whether they score it A through F, to be able to say, how do you feel about each of these? Like if you say AAA, I'm not going to worry about doing much follow-up training on that. But inevitably, there's some C's on there, and there's some C pluses, and there's some C minuses, and now all of a sudden it's like, okay, well, this second month, let's focus on some real specific training around that topic. That's very helpful from a manager standpoint and from a new employee standpoint.
And it saves time and money. Now we're not spending the extra time and energy and focus on something that you are great at, or we're really shifting that time, shifting that money and those resources to the things that you're not strong at. I hired a designer who was near the end of her career, really, really strong. She hand drew everything. So she didn't really love the technical side of things, but that was her only deficiency in that position. So we didn't have to train her in a lot of different things, but we did have to spend a lot of that time on the technical side of her role.
Good. All right, we're in a little rapid fire round, Bryan.
Okay.
Listen to this sound effect. Actually, let's see if they do it or not. Listen, actually, 2 things. One, listen to this lovely commercial from one of our sponsors. If you're a remodeler looking for a website that actually generates leads, not just sits there collecting dust, then listen up. Most remodeling websites look nice, but they don't do much else. That's why Builder Funnel created The Foundation, a performance-based website theme built specifically for remodelers. It's designed to attract, engage, and convert homeowners into high-quality leads. With The Foundation, you get a beautiful, high-converting website optimized for SEO, packed with lead capture tools, and powered by proven marketing strategies over 15 years and dozens of markets. Plus, the recent customer satisfaction ratings have been off the charts. So if you're ready for a website that actually helps grow your business, head over to builderfunnel.com/ROTR to learn more. builderfunnel.com/ROTR. Oh, and you just enjoyed that lovely little commercial from one of our favorite sponsors. And now we are entering into the rapid fire round. Let's see if Cassie's going to put some a little jingle there. Here it is. Oh, we'll see if she does it. I'm going to be interested. Cassie's listening to it. She's smirking right now. She's thinking, what should I do for rapid fire? We'll see. So rapid fire round, we're going to go through 6, 7, 8, 9, your other 4 items on this onboarding starter guide. A little more rapid fire phrase. And number 6 was set the first goal.
Yeah, set the first goal. I think that this is really key to establishing the culture for them. We're productive. We are trying to accomplish something. We're goal driven. So, set a goal for the first 30 days or the first 90 days. If you follow EOS, a SMART goal or SMART rock would be really helpful.
I like
quick
it.
example of what that could be is meet everyone on the team for 30 minutes. That's a easy one that can be applied to everyone. Or if it's specific to the department, you can have one that's specific. But I like to reuse and recycle that because you get to measure what's helpful and what's not, and use those things for new hires.
Love it. Rapid fire number 7. Oh, you got the memo. Not only did you rapid fire, but you also had a very nice tangible example of that's a great little first goal. Number 7 was start onboarding before day 1.
Yeah, we spoke a little bit about this earlier at the beginning, but sending that email or sending that phone call or prepping their office. How often do people come into their office or their space and they're like, okay, how do I log in? What are the passwords? Is this mine? Is it not? So sending a quick picture of this is your office for anything you want to, prepare for. But those are the small things I think that really help them kind of feel comfortable before they get there.
Love it. Number 8, collect feedback with intention.
Yes, this is vital. Just like we would do an autopsy or a postmortem for a job, I think it's really important to do the same thing for your onboarding process. Whatever that date might be, 60 days, 90 days, have a meeting with them. How did it feel? What were some of the highlights of the onboarding that you liked? What were some of the things that we dropped the ball on? What were some things that you needed more support on? And then do the same thing with the people who are prepping them and onboarding them. What was we want to look at the numbers. Again, we talked about that earlier, the financial aspect of it, the effectiveness of it. Did we hire smart and right? Did we hire the right person for this role? And really looking back at that time and really saying, how do we now improve our onboarding for the next person? Because I believe just like a project with a home or anything that we're doing in our selective companies, we should constantly be improving the process and not having a dated onboarding process.
Everything you're saying, I don't think if we lined up a few hundred people, first few hundred people listening to this, and we said, hey, is there anything on here that you think is a stupid idea? Anything on here that you think was wrong? Anything that didn't make sense to you? Everything you're saying is very practical, proven in a lot of different cases, and just makes really good sense. And it's the difference between running an okay business with an okay set of employees and kind of an okay, culture and things are okay, and really being an excellent company. Yeah. Again, a well-hired employee is worth Bailey and Cassie are worth hundreds of thousands of dollars long-term. Absolutely. The knowledge they get, the customer interaction, all of the systems that they develop, the interaction and getting to know the team, the being able to anticipate what I'm thinking because we've been together for enough time where we're just a well orchestrated and well organized team. That's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars when you think of it over the totality of a career and a decade or two in business. And what you're describing here of wait, we're going to not only be purposeful with our onboarding, but we're also going to evaluate it and improve it for next time, just like we should be doing when we wrap up a nice build and a nice project and a nice kitchen. If we take the time to slow down and capture things that we can improve next time, it's going to speed us up and it's going to make us better. So I love that one. I don't love the autopsy or the post-mortem though, Bryan. It just sounds so dead,
It does. Tell me what do you call it? Tell me what would you call it?
I call it an uplifting end of project, uplifting wonderful meeting. We can workshop that. It's a little long. But it's more of a
acronym we can use.
But it's more of in this case it's our never ending improvement, our improve 1% every day kind of philosophy. It's our we want to be better at onboarding meeting. Just that thought of no, we're on the rise. We're trying to make everything better. So it's just a pet peeve of mine. It came up at the Rise conference because Michelangelo was like, "We'll do a post-mortem," and I was like, "Should I interrupt him in front of these 100 people or not?" Oh, we're interrupting him, Michael. Let's use something else. And he's like, "That's what it's called."
The name. We're going to think of a new name for you.
We'll workshop it. And then number 9, it says conclusion, the onboarding kind of conclusion. What do you have there?
Yeah, I think there's 2 things to conclude with. One is send a note. I think I remember working, and this is prior to me creating the onboarding, and an owner sent me a note after 90 days saying, "Hey, thank you so much for being with us. Here are 2 things that I've noticed." And it had such an impact on me just to say, you noticed me. You appreciated me being there. So I always tell people, if we're going to start strong, let's finish strong with a note as well. But you made a really great point. These are small things. Nothing here, nothing that I've shared, nothing that we've been talking about is overwhelmingly difficult. They're the small things that really improve and changes your level of business from the other that says, hey, let's just throw them in there. But it makes a profound difference in the life of the employee or the teammate when they come into the company and they feel like it was intentionally prepared for them. They knew the road to take because someone marked the path for them. So I think that that's the conclusion, is just really make sure that you know that you don't have to take all of it, but implement one or two things in your onboarding process and say, hey, how does this improve it for the next person who joins my team?
Cool. And this is an example of kind of the type of work you do, where a company could kind of hire you, do some one-on-one meetings. Let's develop this onboarding process, or let's develop this kind of HR related side. Let's develop this, proper recruiting of this key position.
Exactly. That's exactly what we do. Yeah.
Cool. That's Squirrel Solutions. Now, if you can spell it, you can find the website. Where do they go for that, sir?
So Squirrel Solutions is just like that. Squirrel, SQUIRREL. Solutions, SOLUS. I'm spelling it correctly now. TIONSIO.io.
That's the key. Squirrelsolutions.io.
Yeah. So that's where we are. We're super excited to work with any company, specifically in the design build space. We believe we have a special sauce for you guys.
Oh. Yeah. So reach out to Bryan. Cool. That was fun. Anything else that you would want to mention, or I also wanted to mention this, or if they heard nothing else, what would you want to kind of leave them with as far as emphasizing this one thing?
With onboarding specifically?
Sure. Or pick of the litter. Yeah. You could maybe it's something totally unrelated. I don't know.
Yeah. I've had a lot of meetings with some of the people on your from your conference, and one thing I'm learning is many people are wearing a lot of hats. We all know that, and they think it's normal to work 65 to 70 hours, and it's not. Allow us, Squirrel Solutions, to come in and find where are those spaces that we can remove those hours from you. I know I'm doing my job well within a few months when you're starting to say, hey, I'm off. I get to go home. I get to take a break, or I can feel the relief. So, let's have that conversation. I think that's super important, just to have the conversation and put it on the table. What's there and what can we pick up for you?
It's awesome. Yeah. It's not healthy long-term. It's not sustainable long-term. And frankly, it's not what you signed up for. Yeah. And there's a lot of, wherever you're at in your business, there's times to work hard. There's times to put in extra hours, but there's also times to be smart and work a little smarter, not necessarily harder. So cool, Bryan. That was excellent. Thank you for being a guest. Bryan was my second favorite podcast guest that I recorded today. Well, that's kind of rude, Kyle, but Bryan, it's okay for you to be number 2 today, right?
It's okay for today. Yes, it's okay
for today. I was telling him right before this, we went to a podcast studio in Brighton, and I interviewed my son, Thomas, on his summer of student painters. So Bryan, you were a close second, but you're not my favorite podcast recording today. Okay. So there, that's funny. That's funny.
It's
to
funny.
Me, but
it is funny. We should have done it yesterday or tomorrow.
Oh yes. Oh, tomorrow you would have been by far number 1.
By far number 1. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. All right, my friend. Thank you.
Thank you.